Good afternoon, everybody. So I'm going to start. So thank you very much, everybody, for your time for the live demo of Sage Intacct. I do have what is a presentation, but I am by no means going to bore you to tears on a Wednesday afternoon with a lengthy slide deck. Really, the idea is just to provide an introduction as to who we are, what gives us the right really to talk to you about Sage Intacct, an overview of what Sage Intacct is, because this may be entirely new to you or you've actually come from using it before, but I want to get you across to my colleague Hamza as soon as possible. That leads me quite nicely on to introductions. Hamza is our delivery manager for Sage Intacct here in the UK, very much responsible for overseeing all of our implementations. He is himself an accountant and also very much Sage through and through, actually a certified Intacct consultant, and has actually led a number of our Intacct implementations too. My name's Rory. I'm a sales consultant, so I work with a lot of our prospective clients through the sales process. Really, the idea being is to sort of understand the challenges and impact that you guys have day to day, not only as an individual, but as a finance team, and of course for your organization as a whole, and really what it is that Intacct needs to do to sort of alleviate those and really help drive kind of, organizational and business growth. But I mean, I think at the end of the day, software is software. And even though Intacct is a very good financial management system, I think a lot of the choice that you will be making will be the partnership and the partner that you take forward to work with you on the implementation. And we very much do see it as a partnership and a journey. So we are very much a finance transformation partner in that set. So very much the mindset that we bring to the table. We've actually been working with Sage for over 30 years. So everybody that you will work with in the Sage Intacct team here have worked with Sage for many years, either with Sage Intacct or with other products. Hamza is a good example here, having also worked, with Sage 50, some of the other Sage products. So very knowledgeable, particularly if we're migrating you from, say, a Sage 50 into Intacct. We are a global partner. So we have offices in the UK, Canada, and the US. If you are a multi-entity organization and you have entities in either of these countries, we have a central delivery team that sits across these three countries. We don't outsource or use contractors. It's all in-house within our central delivery team. And we're also very strong in terms of our financials. I tend to say it's not a brag. The reason that number is there is that we are quite frequently now asked whether we're kind of secure. And I guess from your point of view, the last thing you want to do is go through an implementation of a new finance system, only for your partner then to disappear 6 months after or 12 months after because they've gone bankrupt. Not going to happen with us. We see profitable growth year on year. And we've also got a wide range of different types of organizations that we work with. So I can see today in our demo, we've got charities, we've got some other, software as a service organizations, education type customers. It really doesn't matter. We work across a breadth of different sectors. But the great thing here for you is that all of this knowledge is transferable, as I say, because it is one delivery team that sits across each of these implementations. So Hamza and his team, for example, bring a lot to the table. And it's very much a consultative experience in the sense that if they've seen something work well elsewhere, they will let you know when you're sitting down with them and implementing the system. Now, in terms of what Sage Intacct is, I just want to make a very clear distinction that Intacct is what we refer to as a best of breed finance system. It's not an ERP like you would find with NetSuite and Dynamics. Difference is that with either of those two, you get, say, a financials module, but you'll also get something like inventory, maybe CRM, or a light version of CRM. And for the most part, when we're speaking with finance teams, they just want a finance module. They might, move to something like NetSuite and then end up being quite unhappy because they're paying, quite a large sum of money and only using 20% of the entire product. Sage Intacct is very much driving and automating financial processes within a finance team and providing better reporting at the end of the day. It is a modular based system. What I mean by that is that we will work with you to identify the modules that you need so that day one of you guys going live, you're just paying for what you require. And of course, as part of your account management, your account manager will identify any other modules that you might need to add on. So as you can see in the sort of the bottom right hand corner of that cloud. It is native cloud. What I mean by that is that it was built in the cloud in 1999. It's not one of these systems that has been, in the past on server and has recently made the jump into a cloud. It's always been a cloud product and leverages, web-based technology. So basically, as long as you have an internet-enabled device and a web browser, you can access Sage Intacct as a Hamza's going to demonstrate. It's also a dimensional accounting system. Now, dimensions might be brand new to you or something that you're all very familiar with. Again, Hamza's going to walk us through what that means, but it really is the backbone of Intacct and how you can sort of get more granularity in your reports, better reports at the end of the day. But really, Intacct has been built with finance professionals in mind. And the idea is that it's not only very easy to sort of say implement, but also you guys as a team can hit the ground running quite quickly, particularly if you're onboarding new people. It's not clunky, it's not difficult to use. The idea is that it's, it can be adopted pretty quickly. And it's not been designed with one, particular vertical in mind. Intacct has actually been designed with multiple verticals. And what we mean by that is that there are modules that are relevant to a particular type of sector. So not-for-profit is a good example here because there's modules related to how you track funds, invoice, for example, and likewise, say with software, there's things like contracts, modules, billing, revenue recognition. But when we go to provision your environment, we will do so based on the type of organization and the sector that you sit in. Things like terminology, reports are already there for you out of the box, plus the modules that we've identified that you need based on the type of organization that you are. What I like to say is that time to value here then is a lot faster. It's not so much as building from the ground up. We're already getting a lot out of the system. You work with Hamza and his team to then customize it further based on, the requirements of yourselves as an organization. But typically, return on investment is also a lot faster, typically on average, sort of about 6 months once you've got going with Sage Intacct. And the implementation tends to be about 3 months as well, as opposed to 6 or 9 months with, something like NetSuite or Dynamics. Now, there's this sort of misconception that Intacct has been built for mid-size or large enterprises. Not the case. Yes, it works in those types of organizations, but it's also been built with smaller organizations in mind. And what I mean by this is, even if you are just a single entity, absolutely fine, Sage Intacct will be a good fit for you. If you're a multinational organization here in the UK or globally, Intacct will work for you because it brings to the table things like, multi-currency, advanced global or domestic consolidations, multi-book accounting. So it's really just, what is it that you need? And if you are a single entity at the moment looking to expand, say in the UK, Intacct will scale with you. That's the idea at the end of the day, is that the system is there to scale with you and not hinder your growth as a business and organization. And then lastly, we have Saltbox, which is our own internal integration platform. The idea with it is that we can connect Saltbox to Intacct and any other systems that you have within your technology stack, within your business, whether that's a CRM, e-commerce platform. Those are some of the typical ones that we tend to see, but we have over 30 sort of industry connectors. It's just really trying to understand what is it that you need, what has to flow into Intacct, and does Intacct need to push anything out into those systems? And that's where we bring Saltbox into play. So as I say, I wanted to keep that short and sweet. I'm going to hand over to Hamza, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Anyway, Hamza, I think it's over to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Rory. Brilliant. So as Rory mentioned, I'm going to be taking you guys through a little bit of a demo on Sage Intacct this afternoon. I've got a little bit of an agenda here, so we're going to go through a couple of different bits and bobs around the system. Again, by no means, as Rory says, is this like a thorough demo at all. It's more so just going to highlight some of the key bits and bobs that we have in Intacct and some of the cool bits, and introduce things like dimensions and the multi-entity environment and things like that. So in this demo environment that I've got set up here, this is a software-based environment, which is multi-currency and it's multi-entity as well. So if I click on this entity drop-down at the top there, we can see that I've got entities across the globe there. So I've got some in the US, the UK, Canada, Australia, and South Africa. So I'll be able to give you guys a good overview of how the multi-currency all works and things like that, and how it works when there's multiple different entities involved. I'm going to be working predominantly in the UK environment today, but just before we get down into there, I'm going to start us off here on this dashboard, which is a role-based dashboard. Now, Intacct is known for its dashboard and reporting capabilities, and this is a really good example of one of those here as well. So this is something that would be potentially used by a CFO of a company or someone sort of higher up who wants an overarching view of the full system, their full company, see what's going on at a sort of consolidated level. So this dashboard shows us various different KPIs across the company, again, all consolidated into a single currency. On this dashboard, we're consolidating into USD, but equally, you can consolidate into any currency in the world just as your company needs it. So just running through a couple of the key components that we've got a nice graph that runs across the top of the page there, which shows us our revenue, total costs, and then also our net income and loss. Everything you see on this dashboard is, of course, drillable. So if you want to drill into any of these figures and find out where the numbers actually come from and what makes up those numbers, that's absolutely fine to do. So down here, for example, I've got my total revenue this month, and it also shows me a little comparison compared to last month's revenue, as well as a little green arrow to show me whether I'm doing well, or a red arrow to show me if I'm not doing so well. But if I was to click on this figure, what it'll actually do is pull out the report that makes up that actual balance. So it's popped out onto a separate page. I'll just put it over here. But we can see there's our balances there at the bottom there, and we can actually see that majority of these figures where they come from. And again, I could carry on drilling into this further if I wanted. So if I wanted to see, right, I had $14,000 in revenue other, I could click on that and it'll pull out the originating general ledger report that makes up that figure. So this is the report here that's popped out. And again, I could carry on drilling through. So I could click on that and that'll drill through to the originating journal entries. So you can make your way all the way back to the original transaction to see where that figure on the dashboard actually came from. And again, that's the same story across the board there. Now, across here, I've also got things like direct labor costs, operating expenses. I can do the same thing there. So we can see our operating expenses are actually up 26% compared to last month. I could drill into that and see where those expenses are coming from and why they're up and do a little sort of inquiry on those. Down here, I've got a graph that shows me my revenue by all the different types of locations that I've got here. So I can see USA 1's doing really well, whereas USA 2 hasn't done as well as, of course, USA 1 and the other companies there as well. Again, all this is drillable as well if I wanted to. Over here on the right-hand side, I've also got a chart which shows me my operating expenses, but this time it actually splits out those operating expenses by departments. Now, departments is one of the dimensions that I'm going to introduce to you in Sage Intacct as we go through this, but essentially departments are one of the dimensions that you've got available, and you can think of them as sort of reporting categories or cost centers. And what that means is when you're transacting in Intacct, you're able to code your transactions into a specific department or a specific location or a specific project, and then later on report by those different categories. And it produces something like this operating expenses by department chart here, where I can hover over and see that majority of my expenses there were in the services department. So it was $924,000. Some admin expenses, there was some IT expenses, marketing and sales. Now, this list of departments is defined in this company, but for you, Intacct would be bespoke, so you can define your own list of departments in this. I could actually click on this little part of the pie chart. So if I click on admin, it would actually pull out that part of the pie chart and bring up the report that shows me all the figures that make up that element of admin's expenses. So we can see there under admin, we have $3,000 worth of office supplies, $262 worth of postage and delivery. And again, same story, I could drill in to find out where those figures are coming from. So that makes it really, really easy for us to be able to identify where we're making money, where we're losing money, and yeah, just get us a really nice overview of everything that's going on without having to run loads of different reports. And you can imagine for someone like a CFO, this would be amazing because everything's just in the same place. It saves them having to ask questions to loads of different departments. They can just come in here and see everything they need super quick. And yeah, like I say, super detailed on this one. Now, this is really, really good for a CFO or like a CEO or something like that. But if you wanted to have dashboards and utilize dashboards for more subject matter experts, you're able to do that as well. So you can see on my dashboard, page here, I've actually got loads of different types of dashboards set up. Now, a couple of the ones I want to point you guys to is this one here that says AP manager. I've got one for the AR manager. I've got one for like a financial controller. I've got one for specifically a department manager. It could be any department manager, and I could filter it per department manager as well. And as an example, I've got over here in my United Kingdom entity, the accounts receivable dashboard open. So this would be really good for like your accounts receivable clerk to come on every day, and this could be their start page. and they could come in and see what they have to do that day. So we can see we've got an AR trade account detail report here. So we can see some invoices that are going on. Down there, we've got invoices that have been posted, some that have been paid. We can see what my customer aging graph is, which is looking really awful shape at the minute. Everything is way overdue. And across the top there, we can see what our AR balance is, what our intercompany receivables are, and how much is being disputed. So similarly, we could drill into these, figure out where those figures are. And then we've also got some custom navigation tools. So we could just drill straight to create new invoices, receive payments, run AR reports, etc., etc. And I can also set policy reminders for myself or various other things. Again, completely bespoke and customizable, so you can make this work as however you want. Yeah, but it's really, really good way for you to have loads of different things on the same page. Now, moving on from there and sort of adapting a little bit and moving over to, or staying on the topic of reports, if we pop back up to the top level, with Sage Intacct, like I said, it's known really well for its dashboard and reporting capabilities. Now, with the system, you get straight out of the box a whole plethora of financial reports and custom reports in the system. So if I pop over to my report center here, you can see that I've got loads and loads of different reports here. For example, I've got profit and losses, but then we've also gone the extra step here and taken a profit and loss detail, but expanded it by location or expanded it by department or done actual versus budget or a 12-month history and so on and so on. So straight out of the box, you've got loads of really, really detailed, comprehensive reports that you can utilize, and you can edit them if you want and adapt them, which we will do in a second, and make them work for however you want them to work there. So as an example, we've got the same with balance sheets there as well. Now, this system here has got consolidations built in, but if I was to run, for example, a consolidated profit and loss here, so if I just click on that and go ahead and run a profit and loss for my consolidated book there, I'm able to see my profit and loss in detail in the currency that I've consolidated into. In this example, it was USD. I can see a 3-month period as well as a year-ending period. And I can see the detail all the way down across all my different GL codes or nominal codes, however you like to call them. And at the bottom there, I can see my net income month on month across the last 3 months, as well as a year-ending balance there as well. Now, this is good, but I want to be able to see what each company made across the board there. And that's where you can start to utilize some of the expanded out profit and losses. So if we were to look at this consolidated profit and loss by location and run this one instead, we're able to see that we have a profit and loss, but this time it's actually showing me columns by the companies that I've got. So here I can really quickly compare company to company or location to location and see how profitable each company was. So we can see there in the UK, we did $681,000 year ending 31st of December, whereas in USA 1, we did 1.6 million. This company, the holding company, actually lost us money, and that might just be because of sort of an intercompany loan or something along those lines. But yeah, in the same sort of sense, you can see how I'm able to utilize these reports to get out the detail I want in whichever way. You can export these reports as well, of course. You can send them straight to Excel. You can email them directly out from Intacct. So I can press email, and that'll bring up an email page where I'll ask for the email addresses. I can also schedule these reports to just be ran and sent out on their own. So over here are more actions. I've got edit schedule. So I could click on that and I could make my schedule here and say, right, start sending these out from the 1st of October. It never ends, recurrence every month, every 1 month at the end of the month, and email it over to so-and-so person. I could also choose to store it in the cloud. So if you guys use like Microsoft SharePoint or Google Drive or anything like that, it can actually send it to your Google Drive and just store there, or your Microsoft SharePoint and just store it there for you, ready to view. And again, that just saves you having to come into Intacct and run the report and see what's going on. So another quick way to get your month-end reports out the system really, really quickly. Okie doke. So popping back over to the report center. In the same way as these reports, all the reports you get out the box there, you get 2 financial report writers with your Intacct subscription. So you get a financial report writer and you get a custom report writer. They both do slightly different things and they're both really, really useful. As part of your implementation, we also give you full training on how to use both of those. Okie doke. But they're really, really simple to use. So as an example, if I just run this profit and loss detail again and let's just have a quick look at what it looks like. So if we run it, we have a 1 to 3 month window as well as a year-ended window. But let's say that's not sufficient. Let's say I want to see the full 12 months month on month, okay? To edit it is super simple. All I would do is I would click on edit. I would go to columns and I can just adjust the way that these columns appear. So here's my 4 columns, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And this is my current year one. This is my current month minus 1 prior period, and current month minus 2 prior periods. So what I could do instead is I could say, in fact, what I'll do is, yeah, no, we'll do to this report, that's fine. So I could just say, right, remove this column here, and I could just add another column to the right there, and it'll duplicate the column, and I could just say offset this by 3 prior periods. And then I could do another one to the right and say offset this by 4 prior periods, and so on and so on and so on. And I could do that all the way across. Or what I could do is I could just delete all these extra columns, highlight that and remove, highlight this and remove, and then highlight this last one and remove. And for my first column here, which is current month, I could change this to current year. And down here in the expand section, I could say expand it by time period, expand it by months, and set that. Okay. Now, if I hit save and done, all right, just literally a couple of clicks there. Again, you'd be given full training on this. Now, if I run this and press OK, we are now able to see a 12-month period from January all the way to December. Just like that, I've been able to adjust an entire profit and loss report, a whole income statement for a full year, and now I've got a full 12-month, month-on-month window all the way across with totals and balances at the bottom there, so I can see what's going on. Okie doke. Very, very, very powerful reporting capabilities, stuff that you don't tend to see very often in other systems. So really, really, really powerful capabilities there. I'll need to remember to change that back, but never mind. So let's pivot from there over to the entity here. So I've actually dropped into my United Kingdom entity here, and I'm going to move on and show you guys what invoicing looks like. Just general order entry or accounts receivable invoicing, just for getting an invoice straight into the system. Now, this is my application drop down. You can see Intacct's layout is really simple. It's very basic and easy to understand, but it's very powerful and gives you everything you need. So on my application drop down, I can see all my different applications. Over on accounts receivable, I can pop over to AR sales invoices. And here I can see my accounts receivable sales invoice ledger. Okie doke. So I can see all the invoices that I've posted. And in this situation, I'm going to add a brand new one. And I'm just going to raise this invoice to Hamza Stationery Shop. And you'll notice that I didn't search for the customer's ID. I don't need to know it. I can just start searching for the customer's name, and it comes up with the customer's name straight away. I have this button here that says populate from last invoice. So if I was to press that, what it'll do is it'll just recall the last invoice raised to this customer. Again, a really, really good way to sort of bring up last stuff and quickly post things again if you need to. I've also got day and GL posting date, so those two things can differ. So this is the invoice date, the day you got the invoice, but this is the day it hits the ledger. And this is really good if you have things come in a bit late at the end of a period. You can still post them into the new period, but have them hit the ledger in the last period, so your accruals are always correct as well. Okie doke. Again, down here, the system is going to generate an invoice number for me. I've got a term, so let's just pop in due upon receipt. I can add an attachment if I like, and you can just drag and drop things straight onto the page there. So let's actually go ahead and drop something on here. Let's just see if I can grab a quick file, just anything in my downloads here, nothing that's going to breach any GDPR. This will do. It's just a picture of a computer. So we'll just drag and drop this, and you'll see it actually adds the attachment straight away there. So here it is. So I can make this a bit bigger, and I can give it a name. So I can say attachment test. And I'm going to store it in this folder. Receipts is fine for now. It's all good. Hit save, and that is now attached. If I click on the paperclip, I'm able to see what that attachment actually is. It's popped up on a separate screen there, so I'll show you guys what the attachment was. It's just a picture of some computers. So fun fact, this is actually one of the first computers used in the UK by Sage, by Graham Wiley and David Goldman. And it came up on my memories this morning. So yeah, there you go, fun fact. But first Sage software was launched on this computer. So yeah. Anyway, down here in the lines, you've got currency. And you can, again, like we said earlier, you can use any currency in the world. This environment is set up with a handful of different currencies, but again, there's no upper limit to this. So you can transact in any currency. I'm going to keep it simple today and use GBP. If I was to use a different currency like USD, you'll notice that the Intacct daily rate is what Intacct uses. calculates what the exchange rate actually is between the base currency and the currency you want to transact in. So the base currency is GBP. The foreign currency here would be USD. And the Intacct daily rate, which is pulled from oanda.com, has calculated that to be 0.744, which is the actual inverse rate, right? So that's what it's going to use to calculate. And if I was to select a GL code, so let's do any revenue code here. If I put in 100, in this case dollars, you'll see that it calculates the base amount. So this is the GBP amount, and it calculates that for us using this exchange rate. But again, I'm keeping this simple today. Let's just go with GBP. You can add a memo if you'd like. So let's say new pencils, because of course we're working with a stationery shop. So let's say we're selling them some pencils. Here is where you have your different dimensions. So here is my department drop down. So I could say, right, this was a sale made. So it goes into the sales department. Again, to reiterate, this list is defined by you during implementation. So these departments can look and work however you like them to. So I could say sales. Alongside that, if I click on this show details drop down, I've actually got loads of different dimensions that I can use to really categorize this transaction into a specific area or a specific bucket in my ledger. And then later on, if I was to report by the sales department, I'd see this transaction. If I was to report by, for example, sales type service line 1, I'd see this transaction. So I'm essentially routing this into a very specific bucket, which I can then later report on. So I'll actually put this into service line 1, and I'll say it's also, in fact, we'll just do that for now. I'll leave the rest of the dimensions alone. We'll keep it simple. So and hide that. And then, of course, Intacct is fully VAT compliant, but it can also work with any other tax in the entire world. And we have loads of examples of taxes that we've worked with across the globe there. So in this case, I'm working in the UK. I've got my UK taxes set up. So I could say UK sale of goods standard rate, standard 20%. Happy with that. When you're ready, you can press post. And that posts your invoice into the system. Super simple. Okie doke. So that's a very basic invoice entry. Now, we do also have loads of additional modules which you can bolt on to Intacct because it's a modular system. One of the really good ones that I like to show in accounts receivable is revenue recognition. So a lot of companies these days, depending on your size or how you guys work, will need to do some kind of revenue recognition, some kind of deferred revenue work where you have to calculate what the revenue is and over what period you're going to release that revenue into your ledger. Now, with Intacct, you can get something called revenue recognition management, where you integrate it straight into the system. And when you set up an invoice, you can say that that's a deferred revenue invoice, and the system will actually manage the entire thing for you. So as an example, let's have a quick look. So I'm going to set up a brand new invoice for Hamza Stationery Shop again. And we're going to go with, I can actually do this, populate from last invoice. So if we go ahead and hit that, you can see it's just brought up the last invoice I've just done. So in this example, I'm going to do transaction amount 120, and we're going to leave the VAT as it is. But in order to make this a revenue recognition invoice, I'm going to click on this drop down, and down here I've got RevRec. So I would say, right, this is straight line 12 months. And again, you can set up as many different templates as you like. It's completely up to you. So we do that with you as part of testing and implementation. I'm going to say it starts recognizing from today. I don't have to put in an end date because it's going to work that out for me. And then I can just enter my deferred revenue account, which is this one. Okie doke. So I can pop all those details in and then hit post. And what the system will actually do is generate a revenue recognition schedule for me. And I know it's done that because it now says that revenue schedules. If we go back into it and we scroll down and hit view schedule on the right-hand side here, right, we can actually see that the system has taken that £120 and it has split it over 12 equal periods, end of the month, for £10 each, right? So what it's going to do is it's going to take the money out of the deferred revenue account and it's going to credit my revenue account here for 12 equal months until that full £120 has been recognized. Okie doke. So just like that, literally a couple of extra clicks, and I'm able to manage my entire deferred revenue ledger essentially in the system without having to have an extra Excel document or anything like that, or manually go on at the end of every month and do journal entries and faff around with that. Just do this and I can forget about it forever. It'll just stop recognizing on its own on the 30th of the 9th, 2026, and that's it, job done. For whatever reason, if you need to edit this or put it on hold or terminate it, you can do that as well. It's completely up to you. But yeah, really, really nice and easy way to do your revenue recognition in Intacct. Okie doke. We do also have a module on the flip side of this coin, which is called prepaid expense amortization, which is for, of course, prepayments. So if you're interested in that one, that's also an option too, and it does exactly the same thing, but on the purchase side, right? Now, let's pivot a little and move over to the flip side of this coin, which is purchasing now, or accounts payable. Now, for this example, I'm actually going to show you the end-to-end workflow of what it might look if you implemented a purchase order system, right? So in this environment, I've actually got loads and loads of different types of workflows. And that's, of course, to demo various different types of purchase order systems that a company may have. So Intacct can handle a non-inventory workflow, and it can also handle an inventory workflow. It can actually handle any workflow you could probably come up with when it comes to purchase order systems. Again, this is fully bespoke, so we write this with you as part of implementation. But in this example, I'm going to keep it super simple, and I'm going to show you guys a non-inventory workflow. So in this situation, we would start with the purchase requisition. From there, you can follow the little lines. We would go down to purchase order, which is down here, which is the next one. So that would get converted to a purchase order. From there, we would convert to fulfillment. From there, we would convert to a supplier invoice. For whatever reason, if we need to do a return or a debit memo, also known as a credit note, we can do that from here as well. Okie doke. So that's a workflow I'm going to follow, but similarly, you can see I've got inventory ones, I've got a blanket PO, I've got one with spend management, so I can track my spend against my budget, various different bits and bobs like that. So really, really powerful stuff. Now, as an example, I have done one earlier. So we've got one here, which was a purchase requisition that one of my employees raised. In this case, it was for a new laptop. The entry screens look the same, and we can see it's got an attachment as well as a paperclip. So if I click on that attachment, it will actually pop up the attachment as well. It has done it in the background, but I'll not show you that, guys, right now. And down here, we can see what it is the person wanted to buy, what the quantity was. Again, this is just an example, what the price is, and so on and so on. And then this actually went off for an approval. So again, Intacct can handle any sort of layers of approval that you need. In this situation, we had, so if I jump over to approval history, we had 2 levels of approval. So it first hit an approval wall, which was a user approval. Emma was the first approver. She approved it. After that, it went to another person for an approval because it was over a certain threshold of value. And then it needed to be approved by anybody who is a value level 1 approver. In this example, I obviously approved them both. But yeah, you can see how that might work and how that would go off for an approval. Once it's been approved, a convert button appears, and then you can convert that straight over to a purchase order, which in this example is here. Now, the purchase order will do you a massive favor, and it'll just copy everything over. You don't have to do anything. Literally everything is exactly the same. And again, it's up to you if you wanted to have another level of approval on your purchase orders. But if it's been approved in the requisition, then you might not necessarily need another approval. So yeah, you'd be happy to go with that. At this point, you could send this purchase order directly out from Intacct. So I could press email, and you would just send it straight off to your supplier. They would fulfill this purchase order, and then you would convert it to a fulfillment. In the fulfillment, you'd be able to see that Lenovo has fulfilled the order. We've got the laptop in, etc., etc. And then from there, once you've got it, you can convert that fulfillment to a supplier invoice. And on the supplier invoice, which you can see here, we add taxes. That's the only thing we add. And then if there's any supplier document numbers, like an invoice, for example, we add that detail into there, and then it gets posted straight into the system. Okie doke. When it's on the accounts payable ledger, you just pay it like normal. All right. So that's like an end-to-end workflow of what a bespoke purchase order system might look like, and how you might get people to go into the system and raise the requisitions, but then finance take over and then do the order, the fulfillment, and the invoice. And again, that workflow is bespoke. It's just an example. We could build whatever workflow you need in the purchasing module. Alrighty. Now, pivoting back slightly over to a different area of the system, I'm going to jump back up to the top level for this, which is consolidations. Now, if you do consolidations, or if you work across the globe and consolidations is something that your company needs to do, you'll know how much of a pain this can be, especially when it comes to things like inter-entity transactions, or intercompany trading, intercompany loans, etc., all that sort of stuff. Intacct looks and seeks to eradicate any of that manual consolidation that you've got to do in Excel by giving you this consolidation module here. In this example, it's a global consolidation module. And within it, you can set up a bunch of different types of consolidation books, right? Now, in this situation, I've actually got a handful of different consolidation books set up. So I've got one that consolidates into GBP. I've got one that consolidates into USD and a couple of others there as well. Okay. So if we look at this one that consolidates into GBP, we can actually see how this is essentially set up. So it's got a name, etc. Down at the bottom there, it's going to translate everything into GBP. So from all the different currencies, all the different transactions I've got across the board there, it's going to take them all and it's going to use for the balance sheet, it's going to use the ending spot rate, and for income statement, it's going to use the the weighted average rate. And using the Intacct daily rate, it's going to translate all of those into GBP. Any currency exchange gain or loss will be posted into this account here, which I've designated. And again, the entities that I'm consolidating are all of them, and we're doing them all into GBP. There's also a box here that says enable inter-entity auto-elimination. So during your trading or transaction period, any inter-entity trading that you guys have done will automatically be eliminated for you, which again, as I say, if you've done consolidations in the past, you'll know how much of a pain that is. Literally one checkbox and it does the entire load for you. It's amazing. So it's a really, really good way and quick way to get your consolidations done. I'm going to jump over journals and accounts to override, but over here on the elimination accounts, these are all your due to and due from accounts. Again, if you're familiar with inter-entity transactions, you'll know what these are. These are all your inter-entity payable and receivable accounts. And again, we've set them up here to be automatically eliminated. Now, that's the book setup, and you've only got to do that once. Once it's done, though, you can run a consolidation, and this is super easy to do, and you can schedule this as well if you prefer. But it's literally as simple as coming onto this page, selecting your book and the period range you want to consolidate for. And you can see here, I've already consolidated all of these periods. So I could say consolidate September as well, and then literally hit consolidate, press OK, and then it'll kick off my consolidation for me in blue. Once it's done, it'll turn green, and they'll get an email notification as well. And then from there, I'm able to run any report in the system on a consolidated level. And just as an example, if we pop over to reports and report center, if we were to run, I'll just pick any random report on the list just to show you guys how easy it is. Let's just go with, let's run this project profit and loss summary. Here, under the reporting method, I can actually just say run this based on my global locations book, take the filter out, and then this will run based on the consolidation that we've just done. So this is now a consolidated report. Okie doke. Simple as that, and you can run any report in the system at a consolidated level. Alrighty. That also makes it really, really easy for group reporting into, again, any currency. So if you're transacting in GBP, but you need to report in USD, it's a really, really good way to do it using the consolidation module. Alrighty. Now, the last thing I want to touch on today, which will bring us to the end of our training session here, or demo rather, is bank reconciliation and bank feeds. Now, Intacct does have a dedicated cash management feature here, and we can see over here on the reconciliation, we've got bank. Now, of course, it's fully capable of reconciling any bank in the world. We can just link that in, and we can probably connect a bank feed as well to whichever bank you bank with. Now, I do have a dummy bank feed connected. And again, most of you guys, if you work in finance, you should be familiar with what a bank rec is and what it does. So I'm not going to dwell on that too much, but essentially all you do is reconcile your system bank account with your real life bank account. And Intacct makes it super easy to do that by connecting a feed. That live feed from your bank account will flow into Intacct onto the bank tab here. So we can see these are all our transactions coming in from my real life bank account. It's just a test, of course, not a real bank account connected. But from here, it would be as simple as clicking, right, we can see that the Heart and Vascular Clinic has actually paid us $18,000. So I can press match. It'll show me my Intacct side, and then I can find the corresponding invoice here, which is the Heart and Vascular Clinic. Check the box, make sure the remaining to match is 0, and hit match. And that'll take it off the list. And if I actually go to matched and apply filter, we can now see that that has now been matched. Okie doke. Literally as simple as that. So with a feed connected, You don't have to upload any statements. You don't have to get your statement up on the screen and sit there and manually match it off. Just connect a feed and it's all in the system automatically for you. Saves you a huge bunch of work to do. Okie doke. Cool stuff. All right. So I'll pass back over to Rory. If you'd like a bespoke demo or anything like that, again, you can touch base with Rory and we can get that arranged.
Thank you, Hamza. Well, I hope that was worthwhile, everyone. Appreciate, questions might come to mind after sort of you walk away from your desk, but yeah, as Hamza just said, we'll be following up anyway. So I just want to thank you all for your time this afternoon. As I say, other Intacct is something that's very brand new to you, or you have used it in the past and just wanted to refresh your memory. But in either case, we'll be in touch and we'll sort of pick up the conversations with you then. I look forward to speaking to you all in the future. Have a great rest of the week and thank you very much. Bye, everyone.